Thank you.
Yeah.
Turning over the page, I think we'll find that these 2 points are largely addressed through the bill in any event. The board's simply suggesting at 1 that they support the making of an offence, and in relation to 4, there are infringement regulations which specify that the infringement notice is for a fine of up to $500. No, sorry, an infringement fee of $500, which I think will largely address that issue.
Okay, so we go to the next points then.
So the next ones relate to 450B, and the council case seems happy to support those 2 amendments.
Yes, we are.
So you'll incorporate those in?
Yes,
Yes.
we can incorporate those.
That's 3C1, 3C2.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And clause F9,
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure that whether this is required. It seems to be an issue of semantics. Whether or not something's able to restrict or does restrict is not. I'm not entirely clear why that amendment is required. What's your take on that?
I think that restricts is more defining, and I've got no trouble supporting that.
Okay.
You have no trouble.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, we will support that.
You'll put that one? Okay. So that's the end of their.
That's correct.
Yeah. So what about the other ones in relation to the other boards?
Well, the local board feedback from Hibiscus and Bays largely provides feedback and no specific amendments in the same way that the Albert Eden feedback has. And similar with the Rodney local board, they've provided general support, but they haven't provided any specific amendments that they think would better serve the purpose of the legislation.
So just on that point of officers as opposed to elected members making the decisions on appeals or challenges, what's your view on that?
The bill doesn't actually have any provisions for special exemptions. So the function of the local board under FOSPA came in for special exemptions. So anyone who had any reason not to comply with the Fencing and Swimming Pool Act could apply for a special exemption.
Oh,
and
okay,
and only those special exemptions would be dealt with by elected members. So we believe that the bill is flexible enough to make special exemptions obsolete, and there is no provisions in the bill for special exemptions anymore.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, there's been other feedback which has been incorporated into the Local Government New Zealand draft submission, where other councils have supported the removal of exemptions, supporting the fact that this will save the council an elected member and council time.
Right.
Thank you. Councillor Casey, do you have any other matters you wish to raise?
Yeah, there's just one then that is still there on the table, and that's the age restriction. And the Albert Eden Board suggests 6 years, and you're saying 5 years is international standard. But there's no reason why we can't opt for 6.
No, there is no specific reason. It's just if all international data and research in researching barriers, effective barriers, and I mean, there's technology provides new solutions all the time, are measured internationally for children under 5. It is pretty hard to argue why we should then set our age under 6.
Let's get a bit
Okay.
Just because we have concerns.
Yes,
But statistics show that actually 99% of the drowning in domestic pools are children under 4.
Under 4.
Under 4.
Okay. I'm happy with that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lee?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, gentlemen. In the opinion of our legal advisors here today, will this bill achieve what it sets out to do, that is, reduce the compliance burden currently imposed on pool owners? Do you think it will?
Yes, it will. Through the chair, what I mentioned before, the cost of exemptions, and I think we've got, Nick, correct me, 400 per year?
Yeah, roughly 400 a year, and about 95% of those applications are spa pool.
In relation to spa pool that have a lockable leg, that are regarded by international standards and the New Zealand standard as being safe. But just because of the fact that they're not fenced, we have to put them through a special exemption process. There is an immense cost to council. There are meetings of local boards, there are reports to be prepared, so that is taken away. That in itself is an immense saving. We've got currently 33,000 spa pools on our register, About 9,500 of those pools are spa pools. If the majority of those spa pools are spa pools with lockable lift, it is proposed that they will have a different compliance and auditing regime to a swimming pool, so that also would be a saving.
So a lesser burden, and in terms of the council's amendments, which are obviously concerned also with the critical matter of life and death, will our amendments assist the aims of the bill to reduce the compliance burden, or are we really just changing stuff around?
In terms of the issue of spa pools and hot tubs and the matter of exemptions and the need for pool owners to obtain exemption from the council, absolutely this is decreasing the regulatory burden on pool owners. And in terms of the council's own obligations, under Fencing of Swimming Pools Act, we were under an obligation to ensure that swimming pools within our region are fenced in accordance with the Act. That has now been supported by the fact that the council must undertake periodic inspections of all residential pools. Yeah. So it's a specific recognition of the fact that the council is seen as the best authority to complete those inspections and ensure compliance with what are now building code requirements for fencing.
So will that reduce the compliance burden on pool owners and territorial authorities, that rearrangement?
So the other thing is obviously with having a notice to fix a regime is obviously there are going to be instead of right now you can only do a prosecution, and that costs obviously money to everybody to run through the whole prosecutions. Going to have an infringement process will obviously take that whole burden away for cost too, and which will probably increase the compliance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penrose?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. My question is I've always been curious as to why we've got elected members doing these inspections in regards to spa pools, pools in general.
Under the new bill, that would go out the door, wouldn't it?
Yes.
That's just for that. That's fine, that's cool.
Okay, Mr. Wilcox?
Yeah, I suppose my questions relates to if 65% of all pools do not comply, that's quite horrific, or is it, what's being done about that?
Through the chair, we are therefore suggesting that that we are remaining at a frequency of inspections of every 3 years rather than the suggested 5 years of the bill. The non-compliance issues sometimes are of a minor nature, even though they are quite important. It is important to realise that if somebody moves his barbecue against the swimming pool fence, that barbecue is a climbable object and therefore makes the swimming pool fence non-compliance. It is issues like that that we're addressing. It is gates, you know, that are not closing once they're opened 150 millimetres, because that is what the law really requests, that those gates are self-closing from that distance, so that springs have to be renewed or a little bit of of grease has to be put on the hinges. It is small issues like that, but they're important. They're extremely important for the safety and functioning of those fences. And we feel it is vital that council has a regular look at that, and we feel that the 3-yearly inspection regime, or at least an inspection regime below 5 years, is adequate, and we have put that therefore in our submission.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Casey again?
Yeah, it's the same issue. 3.74, you're asking for a shorter time frame, but both Albert Eden and Hibiscus Bays suggested 3 years. Why don't we just put 3 years in?
Well, we have discussed the fact that the council operates a 3-year inspection regime in the earlier paragraphs, and I guess that comes back to the intention, or the intentions for the bill. It's to encourage voluntary compliance by pool owners, and imposing a formal inspection regime that must be mandatory across the country is a good step forward, because the council and several other territorial authorities at the moment are the only ones that do operate an inspection regime at all. So 5 years is a positive step. We can absolutely request with more authority that the 3-year inspection regime be rolled out.
Is that the wish, what's the meeting?
Well, if I can
Repeat
just
that, Mr. Chair.
talk to
What?
Mr. Chairman, the 65% non-compliance is a shocker.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. And this is one way of trying to deal to that.
I think that may be the view. It seems to be the sentiment of what I can hear around the meeting. So
You want to see houses?
Sorry, what are you hearing?
I-
Is the sentiment 3 year?
3 years.
No. No.
Oh, well, okay, we'll put up that as a motion, as an
I'll
amendment,
amend
and
it.
we'll see what we get. Councillor Holst.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just trying to get really clear in my mind. So we're lessening the burden, and Councillor Lee's questions were really useful because of the far greater clarity and common sense that will be applied to this. But we then have the ability to, having made it much easier for our pool owners, to just garner back a little bit of control with the 3-yearly check. And having spent a lot of time out on pool inspections with Wolfgang, we do know that things change rapidly after 3 years. So I'm very happy to support the 3-year thing. So I'm just trying to make sure that we're really clear about that balance.
Yeah.
But I have a question. So can I just ask our staff, the Judge Randerson decision, the declaratory decision that Waitakere went for around the immediate pool area, does the changed wording suggested in here take us closer to that immediate pool area definition or not?
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor. The definition of immediate pool area has been something that did trouble authorities for quite some time, which is why Waitakere went to the High Court. It was concerning to us that the bill proposed to simply roll over the same definition that was used in the Fencing and Swimming Pools Act. We thought that that definition, although there's still going to be grey area, could be tightened by rolling over what Judge Randerson determined in the High Court declaration proceedings, which is why we've proposed the definition that we have. There is obviously still a degree of interpretation there, but that brings us closer to something that's the council is more comfortable with.
Great, good work, thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
So we're sorry, still on questions? Are we still on questions?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just clarifying because I wasn't sure what you said before. So
What I said was, I thought there may have been a view of the meeting that it go to 3, obviously not. So I've said to Councillor Casey, put up
sorry, I didn't think it was obvious, Mr. Chairman, because we had. Yeah.
No, I think, when you said no, well, it was obviously no.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't get to say anything. I was
well-
sorry. I agree with 3. I just because
You agreed with 3?
Yes.
Okay, well, we have a,
when we're only asking questions, you can't. It's hard to get a view of everybody. They're just asking questions.
Okay, so you've got another question though?
No, that was what I was going to ask the staff. They're clearly off saying that we should go for 3. That was what I was clear. Thank you.
Councillor Penrose?
No, thanks.
Well, what we'll do is we'll put a D in the list of amendment of stems of the motion, and we'll vote on that as to whether the shorter time frame of 3 years, and if it's successful, well, that's what will go in the submission. If it's not, it won't. So
question.
You got a question?
A question about that, in regard to that, and so the problem with that is if the owner of a pool makes an alteration to the area that's fenced off, and who does the responsibility fall on, the council or the owner? If they've made an unauthorised alteration to any after inspections, who does the responsibility if somebody has an accident? Who does that fall on?
If you actually move the pool fencing or anything, under the Building Act, pool fencing is classed as a structure. So if you actually move or expand or make this pool area smaller, you actually need a building consent, and then that will go through a building consent process to go through it.
Okay. If the work is unauthorised,
The responsibility would lie with the property owner. Clearly.
yeah, with the property owner.
Okay, Councillor Penrose and Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, so in light of that, Mr Chair, I mean to say, I wouldn't be supporting 3 years. I'd be looking at 5 years, because we continue to get told all the time that, the cost and the burden on the pool owners, and that the council continues to put these costs onto us. And in light of the fact is that, I continue to hear daily of some of our issues around I'm more concerned around our building enforcement area, where we need additional support because of what's actually going on in the marketplace. So I would be supporting this.
Okay, so Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. In terms, for me, this is about balancing cost with safety. And we've just had a conversation and a briefing around health and safety. And I know that the fault or burden lies with the homeowner. However, we had a death in Ranui, and council were pulled up really sharply. The homeowner had buggerised around with the gate, hadn't sorted it out. A little neighbour's kid got in and died. And council were pulled up sharply, and probably Wolfgang remembers, because we were a couple of months behind on the inspection or something. We didn't, for some reason, we couldn't get hold of the owners, whatever it was. But we know that council is always last man standing, because we're always going to be there and we always get it. And that's my concern, is that it's been annual inspections, but 3 years is a good break. You'll often have, and we have a very high turnover in homes or selling houses in Auckland. We've got one of the highest in the world, actually.